This week, we're sailing up a river that named a country, that's defined this nation's geography, its economy, its history for centuries. Welcome to the Gambia. Welcome to Inside Africa. We set out on the Gambia River, just outside the capital, Banjul. The island city became a British military stronghold in 1816. It's situated at the southern mouth of the Gambia River, but the river is so wide, the entire waterway could not be secured, so a fort was built on the other side. After a 2-hour boat ride, we arrive at Fort Bullen, established in 1826. It sits on Barra Point and overlooks the northern bank of the river.
What makes this fort exceptional?
Our guide is one of Gambia's most prominent historians, Hassoum Cissé. He leads me up to one of the 4 gun bastions. Wow. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, so here now we have a very good idea of the fort's location, just overlooking Atlantic.
So what was here? What were these rooms used for?
At any one time, there will be nothing less than 50 men here, okay? Manning the gun, posts. The gun emplacement here was not able, to cover the whole mouth of the river. So there was another gun emplacement on the island, which we are now facing. So a combination of these 2 gun emplacements, gave the Royal Navy, a very, very, good control over the mouth of the river.
Unlike many forts in West Africa, Bullen was built to stop the slave trade. For hundreds of years, the Gambia River was one of the major arteries for the capture and transport of slaves. In 1807, the slave trade was abolished in the British Empire. But slavery was legal in other countries, such as America. So, slaves were still being shipped down the river for the transatlantic journey. The British Royal Navy dominated the oceans at that time and was responsible for enforcing the ban. Slave ships traveling down the Gambia River were seized. Back at the boat, we're heading upriver. Off the northern side, Cissé points out a piece of land known as the Ceded Mile.
So basically, Sonny, the Ceded Mile was a piece of British territory inside the territory of the Kingdom of Nyomi. And for agreeing to surrender this piece of land, the King of Nyomi was granted an annual salary of $400. $1832, which was quite a princely sum in those days. And also the other interesting thing is that this Ceded Mile became like the launch pad, for further British territorial acquisition.
It was more than 25 miles long and 1 mile wide. So where are we headed to now?
And now we are headed to Kunta Kinte Island, formerly called James Island.
About 3 hours upriver from Fort Bullen, we finally reached the island in the middle of the Gambia River.
So welcome to Kunta Kinte Island, formerly known as James Island. Now these cannons you see here symbolize the tragedy, which has been the history, the tragedy and the violence, which has been the history of this island.
Kunta Kinte is the main character in the novel and TV series Roots, depicting the life of an African man enslaved on a plantation in the United States. It's believed that he was a real person taken from his home here in the Gambia to this island before crossing the Atlantic Ocean. In 2011, the Gambia renamed James Island Kunta Kinte Island.
Because of the strategic location of the island, in order to control the trade in slaves, the trade in legitimate goods in the River Gambia, all the major European powers had at one time or the other tried, either successfully or not, to be in control of this island.
Could you give us an idea of where we are geographically right now?
Well, now we are 26 kilometers from the mouth of the River Gambia, and directly opposite the historic village of Jufure and Albreda. Now, Jufure is the home of Kunta Kinte, and Albreda was one of the major trading centers along the River Gambia.
The island was abandoned in 1828, but parts of it have been restored, including this heavily armed fort. Could you describe for me what exactly was housed where?
There was a dungeon, where the slaves, particularly American slaves, were kept, whilst awaiting shipment. There was a slave yard over there at the Baobab Grove, where the slaves, would be assembled, prior to departure. So it was basically like the most, densely populated spot on earth, at any one time, because, you had all these, people, living on the island.
Kunta Kinte Island is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that stands as a symbol of the transatlantic slave trade. It's become a popular tourist destination for those retracing their ancestral roots to Africa. Do you believe Kunta Kinte was held here, waiting for?
Kunta Kinte was held here, and it was from this island, that he boarded the slave ship called the Lord Legonia, which took, him, to the Americas.
Kunta Kinte's village is not far from here, and that's where we're headed next.